I can feel death in this room. I feel a presence, a twisted mind sending me thoughts, perverted, murderous thoughts. Go away. You have killed. You will kill again. Welcome to the first, the last of the Nerdom. I'm Mike.
And I'm Tom.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
our weekly main show where we cover a topic, mainly in the genre of film or book or comic book, as it were. And this week was very special, as you can see up top here. We're gonna get we're gonna get into the DeepRed real quick. But how you been this week, Tom?
I'm good. And actually, I wanted to apologize to you. Like last week, I was kind of out of sorts. I was, I don't know. I guess, people say that, you have kind of the the emotional thing of the holidays can get to you. I don't know. I was kind of in a weird headspace last week, and I think it affected my viewing of the creator, and maybe I was a little harsher on it. But yeah, I was happy to see that it did pretty well, and I wanted to tip my hat to you, and because you kind of carried the weight of that last one.
Oh, no problem, no problem. No, I wasn't offended at all. It was always I could tell you were. It was. I was feeling that malaise probably about 2 days before you did, where it was like, oh my God, like what? It's just that the meme is it's that time between Christmas and New Year's, like where you don't know what time it is, you don't know if you're hungry, you don't know if you're upside down, you don't know if you're on the moon. You just don't know what the hell's going on before the world starts back up again. Yeah, no worries there. Yeah, and it was the end of the year anyway, so or
Right.
beginning as it were. But yeah, and I want to also say I think thanks to your Book of the Fallen series that you're taking us through, it's I think that has bounced our numbers a little bit higher. I think a lot more people are showing up than normally would. And I'm super proud of that. So thank you, sir. So with that, with us congratulating each other, we're going to get into it here and tell you a little bit more about what this is all about for the plug before we get too long-winded here. And this is the first, the last of Nerdom. The intro, that was a quote from the movie we're about to get into. But first, if you could please hit that like button, subscribe, even better, or even just as good, we'll take it. It's all free. If you want a first row ticket to what we do here every week, and some additional new content that we're planning and doing next week is going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it, and we'll tease that a little bit later in the show, maybe towards the end. But all that being said, our back catalog is growing. 61 subscribers. Thank you again. We appreciate that very, very much. And also for the suggestion of using that Harp AI a few weeks back.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I actually that's a fun addition to the rotation. But with that being said, we're also on Twitter. Tom heads up our Twitter account on that space. We're I'm in the process of planning out the new website and relaunching it here soon, hopefully. With some maybe some better throw in an RSS feed there, get us on a few other audio type podcast places. We'll see. It's the world is our oyster, as it were. But in any case, go check out our last one that Thomas was talking about. Or the creator, as well as Black Christmas. That did very well. That was awesome. And of course. Also, with about the same amount of views as Reaper's Gale, your reaction with spoilers. And we're going to be getting into it here. But this week, we are going to be exploring DeepRed, another Dario Argento flick, which we've covered Tenebrae and Suspiria as well. This is. I love this. This is kind of like a favorite kind of thing. Like we're going to get into it a little bit more in the things, but it's akin to it was the prototype maybe of a slasher in they're kind of two different things, but they kind of follow a very loosely based kind of template, like sort of so to speak. But I like this because of the psychological aspect of it. And Tenebrae was awesome. I love that one. in Suspiria too, but it was a little bit more supernatural, like a supernatural mystery kind of thing. And then I think we didn't do it, but I think we should do a follow up with the follow up to that. I think it came out in 1980. I think I can't remember, but anyway, Farfield. Anyway, so we're gonna kick it off here with a good grief. Why did I not have that queued up? IMDb here. There we go. All right.
Yeah.
Well, while that loads. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead. I've been talking. I've chit-chatting too long. Anyway, here, take us in.
All right. Yeah. So DeepRed is, I guess a lot of people consider Dario Argento's best giallo. I like bringing up some giallos because it's fun to say. But yeah, the giallo's what's probably inspired some of the slasher movies. Basically, giallo in Italian. It's a kind of it's an Italian style movie. It comes from the word giallo's the word yellow, which a lot of the mystery detective novels in Italy during I think like the 50s or something. Well, it came in yellow covers, like the people that published those books. They all kind of came in yellow covers, and so they became known as giallos because they're yellow. It's like, oh yeah, you're reading a giallo, and so it kind of inspired the movies, which are basically about an amateur detective trying to figure out a mystery, and it usually involves some grisly murders. And Dario sort of perfected the giallo, reinvigorated it with his animal trilogy that he did, starting with the bird and the crystal plumage. He did 3 of those and was quite successful with them. And then he came out with a historical comedy called the 5 Days of Milan, which I haven't seen. It was a bit of a flop for him. And so he came back to the giallo with something to prove, because he had all these imitators coming after his bird trilogy, coming out with their own bird or not bird or animal type movie, animal inspired titled giallo, and he was like, no, I'm going to show you how it's done. So in fact, the beginning of the movie, it starts with after the credits and after the teaser of the killer. There's a scene where the main character, a jazz musician, he's working with his band, and they're rehearsing. And at the end of the rehearsal, he's like, yo, guys, no. You're playing it too formal. This is jazz. It's got to be loose. You gotta feel it. And then so that's sort of like Dario talking to those competitors and to the audience. He's like, hey, this isn't gonna be your regular giallo. I'm gonna mix things up. I'm really gonna, trust me. I'm going to show you something cool. And he really had that sense when he was writing the script to it that this was something special. And it is. It's considered a classic to this day. The credits for it credits him and this other guy, Bernardo. I forget his name. I should have looked it up. You could probably pull it up. Bernardo Zappani. And Zappani he wrote a lot of stuff with Fellini, and actually he wrote Once Upon a Time in the West with Dario. And Dario explains in the interview that what they would do was break it up. Bernardo would write the first half, and Dario would write the second half.
Right.
But with this movie, he didn't feel like Bernardo was really clicking with what he was doing, and he said in the interview that to tell the truth of the matter, he kind of threw away what Bernardo wrote and wrote this whole movie by himself. And that ended his relationship with Bernardo. Or Bardino. I have trouble with these Italian names, but yeah. So this is pretty much his baby that he did here.
Yeah, in this would have been a great one to get in on Dario Argento, but so was Tenebrae, and so was Suspiria, that we watched. And I kind of I have a fondness for these now because and I never really connected with the slasher type films. Matter of fact, that's what I kind of viewed horror as a whole genre. And I remember talking about this with you when we kind of first broke into doing a little bit more horror takes. And this is no different. This is completely different than what my expectation was, and I love this psychological thriller, and the camera work is awesome. It's really it's got its own flair to it because it's Italian. It's from his view, but you kind of get used to those kind of. He does things in a certain kind of way, and these giallos, you're kind of like a voyeur, from the murderer's perspective, as they kind of set them up and knock them down, and some of them kind of play fast and loose with like whodunit a little bit. There's like a little bit of a misdirection here or there, and also there are in 1972 or excuse me 75, right? Yeah, so 75. They didn't care. They are covering things that are just like normal, average, everyday things that we wouldn't see for decades in the West in general, at least in America. Like just some of the topics they talk about, they're not afraid to hit it hard, but they do it in such a very interesting way. Is like it's not really doesn't really matter to the film per se, although it does for this character's perspective because he has kind of like a limited worldview in some respects, but I like that. I like that aspect of it where that was also present in Tenebrae, like where there's like some kind of societal, kind of thing there. It's definitely a movie of its time in a way, and I also love the just the sets and the world building too. Like I love it. I love the friggin' shots, and it's awesome.
Yeah. One of the hallmarks of his movies, and you probably noticed just by seeing just three of them, he likes telling the story of a fish out of water.
Yes.
The
kind of amateurish, bumbling
uh,
slightly, kind of Jacques Cousteau kind of vibe a little bit.
That and someone coming into like everybody, like this person, he's from England, and he's here in Italy. He's been here for a little while, but he's not from the country. And like in Tenebrae, they had the English author showing up in Italy, and Suspiria, you had the English dancer coming into Italy. It's sort of like the foreigner's perspective of their surrounding. They're kind of like I said, a fish out of water, so to speak. Kind of seeing things with fresh eyes. But yeah,
they do have like kind of a Batman outside of Gotham with a sidekick, kind of Batman Robin thing going on a little bit, in these things, and they're it never gets played out. Like this is the third version of this I've seen, and it doesn't get old or tired because it's so unique in how he crafts it. It's not just the same cookie cutter thing pumped out like a million times. It actually has these main protagonists always have like their own kind of weird, quirky kind of faults, that you accept because like it's very much a real painting of life, in a weird way. I don't know how to put it better than that.
And I think with these, especially movies from the 70s, they tend to have a slower pace to them, and the whole quirky nature of the characters in this really livens it up and keeps you interested.
And there's levity too. Yeah. Like that's just something that is this is way ahead of its time as far as the pacing, and it's so weird how it just does a lot of things that you wish modern films would do a little bit better anyway, and I love it.
And I was going to ask you, there's an extended version, a 2 hour and 6 minute version, and our and that was the original Italian version, and then they exported it to other countries, also the U.S. as a hour and 40 something minute version. Do you know which one you saw?
No, mine was not that quick. Mine was like 2+ hours. I can't remember the thing
Okay,
here. I'm gonna have it.
okay.
I can have it up here in a minute. On like how long it
The
is,
way
but
you could the way I could ask you is, was the arm wrestling scene in it
yes.
that you saw? Okay, you saw the extended version.
Yeah, it was. Let me fire it up here real quick just so you can get a read on it because I wanted to keep a private copy. Oh, it is 2 hours and 7 minutes long.
Yep, that's the original version.
Yep.
Now,
and I had they're speaking Italian in mine in the version I got, and I had to read the subtitles to it.
Okay,
which is cool.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's probably
also very good quality too.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to promote the Arrow. You might have saw the cut of it from Arrow. This is their 4K release of it. Recently came out. I got the deluxe one on sale because Arrow had their holiday sale, and it comes with a nice little booklet here.
Oh, that's cool.
And then it comes with the thing. It comes with both versions, the 2 hour and 7 minute version and the exported version, and it comes with a nice little poster here. I won't fold it out here, but and also really cool, they have inside how theaters will have the theater cards and stuff. It has little postcards of all of it. So yeah, it's a nice little addition. But yeah, the star of the show though is the 4K version of it. When I first saw this, I saw it on a probably a bootleg VHS, very bad quality. Probably the cut version, maybe the uncut. I don't remember, but yeah, seeing it in crisp 4K, and Arrow did an amazing job on their 4K transfer. It really stood out and gave me a deeper appreciation for Dario in this movie. And yeah, if you could get to Arrow and get a copy of this, they have a cheaper versions of just the movie disc, but yeah, it's well worth picking up.
Do you mind saying how much that ran?
I got it. It was on sale for $25. I think
that's right. That's one of the ones that you got in that sale that you were. Yeah.
But I think it was 50% off, so it's normally about $50. But
okay, right.
But yeah,
that's still not bad though. I mean, if you're doing it onesie twosies.
Yeah, and if you want to wait for their next sale, I know they do it twice a year. I think during the summer they'll have another sale. But yeah, so I usually wait for the sales and kind of build up my list of stuff to get. I know they just are about to release a Conan the Barbarian deluxe edition. So
yeah, that's you've infected me with your physical media thing, especially with some of these films. Like when I got quite a bit of things I need to do for the home improvement in January and then February, but I'm hoping to free up a little bit more spare cash that I can chuck toward physical media, because that's going to be very important for me in this house, because I do have a plan and designs of getting a ultra short throw laser TV with the thing light rejecting thing, and I'm gonna need really good cool stuff in 4K to see on the thing when I get around to that point. But in any case, it's good to have the media, so I can watch something other than the New York Ninja. Which is cool, but you kind of want to see something with a little bit more depth, as it were. Yeah, no, I was going to say too, the suspense building. You kind of mentioned that a little bit, but that also goes with the pacing, like where they take their time, but they do it in a way that is the only way that I can say it is the way that Dario does it is masterful. I really, I also, when I was doing some research on this, I came across another Giallo title from 1964, which I think would be cool to cover, but it would be very cool to see another director do this in kind of like this their own unique way. And that film that I was talking about is the Blood and Black Lace. But I'd really like to see maybe that one. I'll probably see that one offline, or maybe we'll cover it in the future. I don't know. Whatever
Well,
we'll do. Have you seen that one?
I don't think I have,
Okay.
but Arrow has a version of it,
That's cool.
a
All right.
special edition version of it. So we may have to revisit that.
Yeah, we'll have to buy that one. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I'll mark that down as a Arrow film. Sorry.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Giallo is a huge genre in Italy. We've just barely scraped the surface with Dario.
Yeah.
Maybe we started with the best, but yeah, there's some really interesting things there, and I would definitely love to revisit Giallo quite a bit more, and
Me too.
Italian
Yeah.
movies in general. That's why we had
I like them. Yeah, they're
I started
beautiful.
the taste yeah the Taste of Italy that we did last year, which we may revisit this year. We may even just focus on Giallo if you want for a
Probably.
month. But
I don't have a problem with that.
no, not at all. But Dario, in this 4K release of it, it really spotlights his composition of his scenes and the clarity and the beauty of it. And he says in an interview in the 4K, and I'll be referencing some of this whenever I'm talking about what people have said. Yeah, of what people have said in interviews. It's a lot of it's coming from that. But Dario, he said that he had this kind of a feeling of hyper realism. He wanted to get that hyper realistic look to things, and he got that little snorkel camera that kind of focused in on the little childhood obsessions that the killer had with the little toys and whatnot, and focusing in. That snorkel camera is like the little pinpoint camera that can like focus in on really small detailed things.
Right.
And also the start of the movie, you had that crane shot that came down and onto David Hemingway, the actor, and kind of started the movie, kind of giving you the scope of things. And he actually, I think that crane is called the Chapman, and it actually the U.S. crew had used it there in Italy, and couldn't figure out how to ship it back to the U.S., so they had just kind of left it there. And so the Dario was able to rent it to get that shot, because otherwise he wouldn't have been able to kind of zoom in as close as he was able to in that shot. But with that hyper realism, he really kind of painted each scene as almost a painting in and of itself. And I wanted to talk about the Piazza CLN. That is kind of the centerpiece where the first murder takes place, that street level with the big statue of the guy kind of in recline.
Oh, right. That thing is massive.
Yeah, massive. Yeah, it's almost like a dream.
You're talking about.
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost dreamlike, that whole space. It's so empty, and it just has Mark and his friend Carlo, the two pianists, kind of talking about Carlo's drunk, and they have this kind of conversation with a bar to the side. And that bar, when I was rewatching it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like Edward Hopper's Nighthawks. If you wanted to kind of Google that real quick and pull it up.
What was it again?
I was like, Edward Hopper's Nighthawks painting. And I was like, oh man, that reminds me of that. About. Yeah, that the little blue bar that's over there.
Iconic.
It's like, yeah, iconic. Exactly. Yeah, so
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it reminded me of that, and I was like, that's kind of neat that they found a bar that kind of looked like that. And I was watching interviews with Dario afterwards, and he said that bar doesn't exist. They actually built it there.
Really?
In inspiration from Nighthawks. So I got his reference immediately. So they built that bar just there for that scene. And they had it there kind of because he was inspired a lot by Edward Hopper during that time. And yeah, he just built that bar to make it look like that, which is very, very neat. And if you watch that scene, the only two animated people were really Mark and Carlo. Whenever it cut over to the to the bar, the people in the bar weren't even moving. They're almost stationary, and it gave me that kind of dreamlike feeling, like when that murder was happening. It's like Mark was the only person there that was witnessing this murder. It gave you kind of a sense of his headspace, of that being alone and watching this murder and trying to figure out what to do. It really captures a moment, and really painted a very vivid scene that was both emotional and beautiful to watch, even though it was portraying this horrific thing.
Yeah, it's funny. The murders, it is awesome how it does what it does. And I was trying to queue up a clip here, but I'm going to remove that. There, I don't want to get in trouble with the copyright jackasses. Yeah, Nighthawk. Well, yeah, that's exactly. I didn't know what it was called, but I knew exactly what you're talking about when we started to talk. Yeah, I love how he does that with all these shots and scenes and the world building. It's just I don't know what it is. It's just it. You're not just like seeing a scene. You're seeing a feeling. You're seeing a vibe. I don't know, an atmosphere being captured, and it's way more than just what you're seeing. And there's some of its parts. It's there like that. There are so many things like that. Like there's just the way that they film it. It's just I really dig it. And I also love how just using light and dark in this movie is amazing. In my opinion, like it's bright and light, but then the darker parts are like, very much you feel that darkness around you. Like and that's all also goes hand in hand with the suspense building, and how he kind of draws it out. Like when you can you kind of get a little bit of a tell, but you're also kind of also guessing like when is the scene, when are they gonna what's gonna happen. You can kind of see the build up a little bit, as you kind of get a taste for it. I don't know about you, but it still isn't. It's to the benefit of it, not to the detriment. Like there's some movies like where you can see the buildup coming a million miles away, and you're just like, whatever. Like, but that's not any of these films that I've yet to see a bad one. Like, let's put it that way, or a bad version of it. I love it. Like just the contrast between the directors, the content that they talk about is interesting. It's not. There's not like one boring, in my opinion, scene. Even the there, and it's got a certain level of brutality to it, but it's in a very practical effects way that I dig. That is not. It's lacking from modern, things. Either it's shock and awe, and it's just so over the top, and whatever. It's just like whatever, versus like these scenes like where the scenes are just as much important as part of the as a character, kind of like as a background, background extra or something. But they're essential.
Oh yeah, like like in Tenebrae that we watched. The police detective in this, the police force in general are kind of incompetent, and
Keystone
I like
Cops,
how
right.
yeah, I like how the police investigator in this was always focused on food. He's munching on a sandwich during the crime scene where the lady was brutally murdered, and,
Right.
and then this next scene he's banging on a vending machine. He's constantly wanting his food, but yeah, I'm more focused on that than anything else. But yeah, the murders, in some of the stuff that I read, they were talking about how there's a I forget who the writer was, but they were talking about how these movies are sort of like musicals, in that with musicals, people come to a musical to see the big dance numbers, where the plot of the movie kind of stops for the big dance and singing number in a musical, whereas these giallos or slasher movies, the plot stops for these outrageous kills, and it's almost like a performance, and and in fact they're so important that Dario is the killer. He's the hands of the killer in every one of his movies. So it's Dario killing his actors. In fact, there's one scene where a lady's head's being dunked underwater, and he was so in trying to get the shot just right that he accidentally held her a little bit too long under the water, looking at the monitor trying to get it right. She
That's
come
funny.
up out of the water going, ah! But yeah, there's, and also with the murders, with this, him and his co-writer is said that they wanted it to feel very visceral and real to the audience, so they did the murders in ways that the people could relate to. Like very few people can relate to what it feels like to be shot, but a lot of people can feel like what it's felt like to have scalding water on your skin, or getting cut, or bashing your teeth.
Oh yeah.
There's like that visceral sense of things.
he does kind of mess with your sensibilities as far as like it's almost like nails on a chalkboard how he does it, because like who hasn't walked by a corner of something hard and high up, and then somebody thinking about busting their head on it or busting their mouth on it, or just like, or your mind kind of starts to play like, what happens if my if my mouth got busted, and there's like, well, here's what happens. Like it's just interesting how some of those are captured. And like I was saying before, like this is something that was just like, who gives a crap, kind of thing, like where they didn't, there's no commentary. It's just part of the world building, and they move on. Like this is the thing that the modern sensibilities that suck at it. It's kind of like the joke of like the vegan, and you know how somebody's a vegan because they told you 10 times or whatever, as the joke goes, because they never shut up about whatever. And apologies out there if you are vegan. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just like just a stereotypical example. But like the modern sensibilities, like you got to be told a million times what and who and what's going on with this character and why they are that way, even if they have nothing to do with the main thing. So anyway, that's just a rant, but it's just funny.
That he does have a thing where, like with Tenebrae, he did have some gay characters in it, and there's this sense of, it's they're gay, whatever, that's sort of the free spirit of Europe during that time of the 70s. There was a sense of it in America too during the free love period of America during the 70s.
Sure.
There was a openness to a lot of things,
or an openingness. Yeah.
Openness. Yeah. And
an opening, I should say.
And so one of the characters is gay in it, and it doesn't really play that much into the plot. It's just there.
Right.
So the interesting thing about the male character in that scene, that it's actually a female performer with a little mustache placed on her. So
that kind of makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, so there's sort of like that androgynous kind of.
It's like a Vulcan or Romulan. Excuse me, Romulan.
She's very he in the movie is very striking, and and actually I guess maybe it kind of plays into today's kind of fascination with these things, but it plays. The more important thing is not
like Timothy
what's going
Chalamet.
on. It's a little less of what's going on the outside of the world, but it's more on Mark's, the main character's side. It's how he reacts to it, because he's sort of he kind of tries to portray himself as more of kind of a free spirit, sort of open-minded. He's a teacher of jazz, so he should be kind of loose and kind of open like society, but he has these repressions, like when he's confronted with this person that's out of the norm, who maybe looks kind of feminine but has a mustache. He's sort of taken aback, and he kind of recoils, and he's like, "Oh, well, I got the wrong address."
Right.
But then he realizes, no, it is actually where I need to be.
Carl's, yeah.
And so he has to kind of overcome his kind of trepidation, and also, so he's kind of warring with
Carlo,
more,
excuse me.
yeah, Carlo.
Carlo's
He's
boyfriend.
kind of he's having a struggle with how things are in the modern society,
Right.
and his moral maybe compass as far as how he fits into the world, because the female is his love interest in the movie, which is almost antagonistic.
Bites back.
Yeah, she's kind of got there's sort of like this gender war. She's sort of very much a feminist of the time, and she's kind of asserting herself, and she's more of the dominant character in this. She's actually kind of takes on the male role of this. So, and he has a problem with that. He's like, no, I'm a guy, but he kind of comes to terms later on in the movie, like, okay, well, I am who I am,
Right.
But so there's sort of like does have an emotional story arc there, along with a very interesting and engaging murder mystery that's going on as well. And the murder mystery, I love how it kind of goes from, he's not the traditional detective. He's
No.
like you said earlier, he's kind of bumbling. He's kind of bumbling from the clue to clue. There's not like a rhyme or reason to it, and it's kind of amazing that he gets to where he's going in it, and it's almost like he's being forced outwardly to the conclusion of it. But yeah, it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
How he's not like he's not like he's not Sherlock Holmes. He doesn't have like the map with all the lines tied to it.
No.
He's sort of he's much like jazz. He's sort of filling the notes. He's filling the notes, and he's going from note to note, from clue to clue, finding the answer. And yeah, that's kind of interesting how they play with the jazz concept with that.
Yeah, well, and just like all the characters, even if they're a minor one, they're interesting. They're interesting,
Mm-hmm.
which is compelling, which helps it draws you in more as you watch the film. You you kind of get the, and then all of a sudden you have a bird's eye view of like the like someone's gonna get whacked.
Yeah, even I forget her name, the reporter. Her car is a character in it. The fact that it's so tiny.
Yeah, Daria, Nicolodi.
Nicolodi, yeah, and actually, that's where this movie is where Dario and Daria first meet.
Yep. And then they get they're together for like a decade or so, right? Something like that.
Yep. Yeah, and Tenebrae is where things are kind of falling apart between the two of them.
You can see it. Yep.
Yeah, so this movie, you can see that he's kind of falling in love with Daria. The movie is very much in love with her, her playful nature, and the camera just kind of loves seeing her in the movie. And in Tenebrae, it's sort of like the falling apart, and she's barely in it, and she has this horrific scream at the end of that, kind of ending their relationship, and filmically and personally. This is sort of kind of like interesting kind of caps to the beginning and ending of a relationship. But this movie, he's very much in love with her, and you could see it on the screen.
You really can.
Yeah. There's like a glow about her, and much like and I like how it's not like a traditional romantic relationship. There is that antagonistic relationship between the two, and from the very start, even though they had sex, very much a European kind of blasé affair with having sex. After they have sex, he's still not sure he wants to hang with this woman, especially after she cheated with him in arm wrestling.
Right. But it's funny how they end up doing what they do. But the whole way through, they're kind of like it's just they play off of each other. There is a chemistry there, and there is the view from Dario's vision, and I love how he doesn't shy away from bright colors or things. it is the 100% 180 difference between a slasher, like where I think, in my opinion, I'm not saying anything bad about them. I'm just saying that they're very much more dull and muted as it goes, because it's kind of in a box. Whereas, yes, technically, by the technical definitions of what a giallo is, a mystery, you know, it's like this box, but it's not. You don't ever feel that. It's so much wider than that, and I like that. Maybe that's why it appeals more to me than like the slasher. And I'm sure I'm sure we'll get into some really good one or whatever, and if we haven't already, or kind of the ones that blur that line. But regardless, the practical effects here are they almost kind of make you wince a couple times, like even though you wouldn't think like, oh, something from this 1975. There's no way it'll like make you. It doesn't necessarily make you squeamish, but it pinches you in a different area that you're not expecting. I'll put that way. It's an uncomfortable feeling sometimes.
Right. And
but I love that too.
Yeah. And I think the nature of how they filmed it has a play on it too, because everything's physical. Whereas now it's all digital. You know, if you see a horror movie now, it may look a little bit more real, but it's fake. You know, it's right. They've done it with CGI, but with this, they all the killings. If the guy's using the meat cleaver to cut into a body, maybe it's not a real body, but there's meat there. Right. He's cutting through like real meat, and there's like a physicality to it that physical and visceral kind of feel to these movies that is very much of its time and makes you feel in a way that is kind of timeless in that and it seems more real, even though it's still not real, as opposed to what we would get today with the CGI.
Absolutely. And, that and some of the other things too are the way that it's staged, the way the killer kind of stages the killing in a way is very creepy, like this, like you see kind of this shot from the film. And it kind of, there's a little bit of a creepiness to it, or an absolute violation of like being in your own private, like it's a little bit of a different take than there's somebody in the house, it's a little bit different than that. Different. Yeah. That's a variation of it, I guess, is what I'm saying. But it still works. And lining up all the way through, you see that he's kind of hamstrung by his perspective until he kind of starts being like, wait a second. You figured out like either you figured out way ahead of time, and you're like one of them people, or you realize it like before you started to be like, wait, there's no way that could happen because he was there. But it's just like, no, dude, turn around, kind of type thing. Yep. And he's like, and then it dawns on him, but it dawns on you first before him, which I love. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but I kind of believe it is.
I think so. It's all about, it's a play with memory. It's like, he talks a lot about memory and what would I thought I saw this painting, and there's like sort of like this interesting play on memory and what you saw, what you perceived, and done quite well. But to circle back to the beginning of the movie, the way Dario came up with the idea of the movie was that he had this thought, and there's the blue bar that kind of was inspired by Nighthawks, but what inspired him was this psychic, this clairvoyant, having a seance, and a killer walking on the outside of the building out on the street, and her picking up his thoughts as a killer, and but he kind of remakes, does it a little bit different in the actual movie and makes it sort of like this auditorium where she's giving us speaking engagement to this audience. And I have a personal, now I'm not a killer, I'll say this, but I have a personal thing that kind of echoes this. And maybe I don't know if I'd seen this movie yet. Maybe I had, because it was in college. We had this thing called, I forget what it was, but my college scholarship was for these future business makers or something. I don't know, but part of my scholarship was that first year I had to attend these little meetings where it would be we'd have a speaker I guess to inspire us or whatever. But yeah, one of our speakers was this clairvoyant, this well-known psychic in Arkansas, and so she was giving this speech, or giving us this little thing, and it's more or less like a kind of a magic show where she was guessing things from people out in the audience, and she's worked with the police force and maybe tracking down killers or finding people or whatnot. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to test this woman. I'm going to beam all these thoughts of horrific thoughts towards her, like I'm going to kill you and all this, and see if she flinches, see if she looks my way, and she never did. So I was like, fake.
Right, that's funny.
But that was the whole little thing that I had going on in my head, and I don't know if I shared that with anyone because they would look at me like, oh, what's going on with you? But yeah.
No, I think that's a natural. I don't think you're unique there. I think that would be probably something to be like, all right, if I was in a squirrely mode, I'd probably do the same thing. But
yeah, I was young. I was in my, I was still a teenager.
Right. I do love in Dario's world, in this universe. I love that it can safely be said psychics are a little bit more, or psychics are a real thing versus kind of like it's kind of more of like a sideshow thing here in our world. But and I like also that is true also in Tenebrae and although that didn't really get into anything supernatural or weird too much anyway. It's Suspiria definitely for sure. But I love how that's like I love that world building. I love that that exists in that world. It's just kind of cool. Like I just like that as a thing.
Yeah, and that's just sort of like his stamp of putting his stamp on Giallo. It's literally like, okay, this is my definitive Giallo. This is the last one. And then he went on to the supernatural horror movies that he started with Suspiria. So right after this, he made Suspiria. And so this is sort of his kind of dabble into the mystical, the mysterious aspect of it. He starts it with this, but then kind of puts his foot down and is like, no, it's a Giallo. This is how things are going to go.
I love it.
Yeah, and I also like the name of it, DeepRed, and that's what it's called in Italian, Profondo Russo, which actually, if you I think if you wrote it correctly in Italian, it'd be Russo Profondo, because they usually put the main word first. But Dario goes, no, it has to be deep red. It's you with the emphasis on deep. It's really red. It's a very deep, and
it very much is,
and very very smartly done, because they were wanting him to keep it in line with his animal movies. He had done the Bird in the Crystal Plumage, Cat of Nine Tails, and I think Four Flies on Gray Velvet. They wanted, and all these others giallos were named after animals like his that were popular at the time. But he goes, no, this is different. This is my stamp. And so he didn't return to a giallo till 10 years later with Tenebrae, which was very much a great movie as well, and kind of reaffirmed his mastery of the genre. But yeah, this is sort of like his quintessential giallo movie. There's a fun fact. The guy that was originally in its interview on this the Blu-ray, there's an interview with Lino Capolecchio. I love Italian names. That's just fun to say. But
sure.
But yeah, he was originally cast to play Mark in the movie, and I was like, why is this guy? Why is he interviewed on this? But he has an interesting story to tell. He says that he was sent the script by Dario saying, hey, I want you in this movie. And so he was reading the script, and he was going to go somewhere else and then come back to the city, but he was going out of the city, and so he grabbed the script, and this lady was his friend was going to take him by car out to the country, and so he threw the script in the back of the back seat of the car, and so they go off on their little trip there, and it was raining, and this truck hits them. And the car is like really mangled, and they're kind of like pulled out of it, and she's barely alive, and he's got busted up knees.
Good grief.
And yeah, and in fact she's bleeding so much that he's covered in blood, and they thought he was far worse than what he actually was. It was just his knees, and she was in a coma for 3 months.
Good God.
And so right, exactly, very, very traumatic. And I love the interview because he's sitting in a theater, and he's got this beautiful blue scarf on. I don't know about these old actors that love wearing, men that wear those little ascots or scarves. It was just beautiful. But yeah, he said that once she got out of the hospital, she was like, I need to see that car. I just want to see the wreckage of it, right, just to see what we lived from. And so he said, sure. So they went to see the car, and it's this mangled mess that they were wondering how in the world did they survive this. And he sees this kind of a flicker of white, and he looks in the back seat, and there's the DeepRed script that he had thrown in the back, and he pulled it out, and every single page is covered in blood.
Oh, that's crazy.
It kind of makes sense, DeepRed,
that's
all
crazy.
in blood. Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting story.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this was a seminal work, and if you are new to giallos, this would be a great one to start with, just to see what the world is all about, especially with Dario. I'm sure others did it just as well, maybe, but I'm kind of getting used to his vibe. I love how he uses color and brightness and light and dark. It's just refreshing. It's just not.
Yep.
You just kind of could see like a non-brutal scene from this movie, and you might take it for something completely different, which is refreshing to me anyway.
Right. Yeah, the scenes between the reporter and Mark, they could almost be in sort of like a romantic comedy.
Right.
The way it's filmed, the way it's lit and everything, and played out, it plays like a playful comedy.
Right.
There's some other things I'd like to talk about, like the killer. He's sort of like stunted in childhood, very much obsessed with childhood toys, and a lot of the toys are in the killing and on the poster there. And also it's almost a Christmas movie. I was almost torn between this and Black Christmas to do for Christmas. It may even make a good double feature, but I think it's better after Christmas, because it's got that, but like a little bit after Christmas, because you want that glow, that old glow of Christmas,
right,
but kind of aged and kind of tattered. You don't want to be in the bloom of Christmas when you watch this. It may be in the afterglow of it,
right.
where it's starting to curl at the ends, and then maybe become something different, something darker, which this movie is. But yeah, it has a Christmas element to it, and you could almost call it a Christmas movie if you want to, but it gets close, but not quite for me. But yeah, I like the playful nature of it, and in fact, there's like this scene with this toy dummy that comes out of nowhere.
Right. The professor type guy. Yeah.
Yeah. The professor who looks much like a sad Matt Berry. Who Matt Berry is in the TV version of What We Do in the Shadows. Very, very funny comedian. But if you know, you know. But yeah, he's got like a sad-looking version of him, Italian version of him. But yeah, this dummy comes out, and he's like, and the professor thinks, oh, I was surprised by the stupid dummy, and he knocks it down and kind of has a laugh until the killer comes out at him. But yeah, that dummy,
wham,
Yeah, fun fact. Designed by this Italian guy. The guy I forget his name, but he's the guy that designed, helped design E.T.
Huh.
But yeah, but
That is
yeah, they
very cool.
ask him to. So he's got some ET DNA, I guess, within him. But yeah, it was a working dummy, and when Dario had completed the script, and he kind of loved it, and he kind of showed it to his brother and his father, who's a producer, which produced this movie,
Hmm.
Claudio Argento, showed it to him. He was like, he's very happy to show it to them, but they were kind of like concerned. They were concerned about these parts of it. They're like, Dario, you might want to cut out this kind of crazy stuff that you've put in here. And he goes,
Right.
no, 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 it needs to be in it. It's going to work. And he was right. I mean, the a lot of the outrageous stuff that happens in DeepRed are very, very important to the movie. Again, it's sort of like, again, like jazz, it needs those kind of wild sounds to it, or it's not jazz. It
It
needs those kind of outrageous moments for it to work as a whole.
Yeah, it sets its own path as it goes along, which is
Hmm.
refreshing too. And I was going to say, speaking of music, um, I'm not really hip to them, or they're not really in my music taste, even though it's pretty wide ranging. But Goblin, the progressive
Hmm.
rock band back in the day, did the soundtrack to this, and I think my notes say like they had like 2 days to do this, like one day to like write stuff and then another day to record, and that was it. and they But it also kicked off another kind of thing where some folks do like that kind of they dig it, but they did again, just like the shots being unique to themselves, the music is also unique as well. Very
Oh yeah,
synthy, and it goes with it hand in hand. Definitely for 70s movie. Much
yeah,
better, in a better tasteful way. The 70s, because sometimes 70s soundtracks are kind of you know
yeah.
campy or kitschy or whatever audio, the audio version of that. But this you take it seriously all the way down the line, and it's just, it also kind of sets the edge a little bit harder.
Hmm.
Sometimes, like when you hear different parts of
Oh
the,
yeah,
like when they play the kid song, very creepy,
yeah.
disconcerting kind of thing. Like,
Hmm.
something
Yeah,
ain't
there's
right.
yeah, absolutely. And Goblin has a very good relationship with Dario. Dario kind of put him on the map, and they did, the soundtrack for Suspiria and a few more of
Right.
his movies. And the Simonetti, who's the main guy of Goblin, went on to do several of his soundtracks. But yeah, this is the first movie with Goblin, and yeah, Dario started with kind of a classical orchestra guy that I forget his name, but he's credited on it as well. But he was kind of unsatisfied with the music that he was producing. There is some of his music still in it, like the opening scene with in the theater is his music, and then the child's little theme music that plays
Okay,
that
that was actually his.
into that
Okay.
movie was his as well. But
Okay. Cool.
Goblin,
Cool.
um, Dario wanted, he decided he wanted a sort of a progressive rock sound to it, and he said that he flew to England courting various bands. Like he talked to DeepRed, and DeepRed goes, "Yeah, guy, yeah, we're in tour. We can't really do it." He talked to Pink Floyd, and he said that some of the guys from Pink Floyd were familiar with his music or movies and was kind of interested in doing it, but they couldn't do it either. And he talked to Genesis, and Genesis was like,
No.
"No, we're on tour. We're on tour." So yeah, he's kind of despondent about that. And he talked to one of the, I guess, some of his people, and they suggested Goblin and gave him the demo to them. And they were just a band starting out in their early 20s, hadn't really done anything. They were working. They were actually called Oliver at the time, and so they Dario listened to the demo, and he goes, this kind of reckless to give the soundtrack to a band that's barely formed and hasn't really proven themselves as artists or whatnot, but let's give this to them. And so a lot of their music in this is sort of reinterpreting the orchestral stuff that had been written for this in sort of that progressive rock sound, and it gives it, sort of like this nightmarish kind of dreamlike feel to it. There's like this repetitive sort of organ music, electronic organ music that's playing throughout it. And there's a scene in the Villa Scott, which I have a story about. The house, the haunted house of the ghost child or whatever. There's this my favorite bit of the score is where it almost sounds like a kind of like a kaleidoscope, the circus music, but with this kind of dark edge to it, this sort of creepy, and it's that perfect blend of childhood playfulness, but with this kind of a dark undertone, and it's just perfect for this movie, perfect for the killer. And then there's a beautiful way where and it doesn't always work, but to punctuate a scene, the music will just automatically just stop. And that you don't really do that in movies. You usually kind of fade it out or do it like a big thing to it. You don't usually just stop, but there's like the scene that really works is also in the Villa Scott, where the main character steps on some glass and cracks it and the music stops because it's like he notices like, oh, and it just kind of punctuates the scene.
It really
and it has
Now that you're saying that, you're right. It absolutely, and that's just like one of the things I love about how he does what he does, and like he just uses all elements to great effect, in my opinion. This is what makes doing things like this awesome, because you get exposed to different things. I was also going to say, like, the giallos are kind of like it's kind of like a very loose defined noir film in a way. But again, with instead of the gumshoe private dick going in or the cop or ex-cop or whatever searching or looking for the mystery, solving it, it's kind of its own kind of thing, but with higher stakes. Like whereas noir is kind of like murder is implied sometimes, or maybe it kicks off with that. You don't see the brutality of it at all. It's kind of like another side of a noir film, which is appreciative to me. Like, which I love those kind of films as well. Like, we're talking like old school, like North by Northwest, Maltese Falcon. Like, those are some of the more famous ones. But I love that. It still works. It's still a mystery. It's just like a different telling of a mystery, with a really cool take. I dig it. It's definitely in my world for sure.
And he's kind of playful with the audience, and also with the music is very important to this movie. It's almost it's not musical, but yeah, there's sort of like, with music, there's the repeating phrases or the reoccurring themes in music. And with the kills, there's like things that kind of elicit the things that are come after it. Like there's a scene where Mark is calling the newspaper reporter after seeing a book, and is wanting to talk to this other the person that wrote the book about the house. He's in this kitchen in this bar. He's trying to talk on the phone. It makes you realize that this is in the day of no cell phones. You had to find a phone where you could, and he's trying to talk on this phone, and they situated the payphone next to the kitchen where they're the guy's cooking, and he's got the dishwasher going, and it's scalding hot water, and it's splashing onto Mark as he's trying to talk, and he's getting scolded. And then almost a scene or two later, a lady's getting killed in the scalding water. It's sort of like an echo of what's to come. It's kind of fun. And there's those foreshadowing, and there's other foreshadowing as well. True. But
it's all over the place in this one, isn't it? Yeah, that's another thing, and you accept it. It's not. It's so much more better than. Well, anyway, I could hammer on more modern movies or whatever, but anyway, that just kind of goes to our point. This is a very strong recommend from us. This is not disappoint me, especially being newer to the Giallo, Dario Argento world. Not my first rodeo, but it was like these get better and better every time I see them.
There's also kind of a sense of displaced in time and space. It's supposed to take place in Rome, but all the exteriors he filmed in Torino, Italy, which is kind of a whole different world to itself. And actually, in Europe at the time, that was supposed to be the biggest population of Satanists were there, and so he was kind of inspired to maybe film there just for that weird vibe to it.
That's
but
funny.
but yeah, there's like this sort of dreamlike sense to it, and there's the house itself where the killer was raised in. They were looking for that in Torino and driving around, and they wanted sort of like a big kind of palatial kind of place, and they come upon this house kind of buried into where it's at, and kind of covered in trees and whatnot. And they were like, and Dario was like, "Yeah, I think that's the house." And they were like, "Are you sure it's not like sort of like this palatial place?" He goes, "No, I think this is the one."
Makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew how to find those, I guess.
Yeah. If you see the movie, it works beautifully. And so they go to talk to the people that own the house, and they got turned away at the door, and come find out it's a house of nuns, and it's a school for wayward girls. and so yeah, it's they were like, yeah, we really need the money. So we would like it, but I don't see how you could film here. We've got all these girls here, and yeah, the way Dario describes it, these are sure like kind of bad seed girls, that had seen the darker side of the streets, and so yeah, they didn't want to expose the nuns or the girls to all the
Violence,
to the trappings of. So they worked out a deal for them though. They said, well, okay, how about if we give you a paid vacation to the Riviera.
That's funny.
Go down to the beach for a month and a half. We'll pay all paid, and so that's what they did. They sent them off on a nice little vacation on the beach, and they had a month and a half to themselves. So that house that looks so deteriorated,
right,
and run down,
dilapidated.
That's all Hollywood magic or Italian magic. They made it look all run down, and but awesome. Yeah, it's the perfect house. And the thing with filmmaking at that time, that was inspired by the French kind of new wave of way of making movies. Like, Hollywood was used to all these fake sets, everything kind of looked kind of fake, and that whole thing. Whereas, the French new wave sort of like, okay, you got to film it where it takes place. You got to have the realism to it. And Dario was inspired by that. So that's why everything looks so looks so real and lived in. In fact, there's Carlo's mother in the movie is a failed Hollywood actress. And so Dario wanted to cast a failed Hollywood actress in the role for kind of realism. And he didn't like getting actors to act. He wanted to get actors to be themselves. Right. So he wanted to get actors that would be perfect for the role, in a sense, because they're just playing themselves. And so he actually interviewed a bunch of aging starlets of the time, and he said it was kind of interesting because you got to hear all these old Italian film history from these older ladies, and he said oddly enough all of them were pretty much alcoholics, but I guess that was maybe sort of its period. But
par for the course,
but exactly. I guess once you've seen the highlights of being in the limelight, and then these women, a lot of them were living just above, right along their means, kind of one of them is in sort of like this rundown side house to this big house that she used to own. And it's kind of sad seeing how some of them kind of ended up. But the lady that they did hire for the role, her actual house or her actual apartment. That's it in the movie where she's at. There's they have a scene where they kind of show the pictures of her movies and sort of kind of spotlight each one of them. They maybe linger a little longer than they should maybe on all the pictures, but it kind of gives you a sense of who she was. And but yeah, and that just kind of gives it a little bit of realism, knowing that that was her apartment, and this is it just gives it a little bit more sense of realism to it.
Well, it just goes back to like he knows how to use all the elements that you would not that where even a good director would miss or not hit that mark, but he does every time. Well, 3 times that I've seen anyway, but very very much enjoyable for
Yep.
sure. Like I was gonna say, I wanted to. I think we've covered most of it. Let's see here.
I will mention as you kind of look over your notes, but David Hemming, the actors in it was really good. I mean, there's a thing about the dubbing in Italian movies. But it was actually filmed in English, and I think you watched it in Italian, and I watched it in Italian on this go round. I have seen it in English, but
I'm
if you
glad I
watched
didn't
it,
see it too from like what I after the fact I went through and I saw that like they did different kind of things. I'm glad I watched it as I did. To be honest, I'm glad
yeah,
it was the
yeah,
first cut, first
right.
whack.
Yeah, yeah. There's in the 2 hour and 6 version, on the Blu-ray they do have the English version of it, but the English version is only from the elements that they could recover, and also from the hour and 40 some odd minute version of it. So there are scenes that they couldn't recover in English. So in those elements of it, it switches back over to Italian because that's all
Yeah,
they have. So if you want the seamless version of it, you should probably watch the long version in Italian.
yeah, and they all the U.S. version was much shorter, and it was also they cut out all the good parts
Yeah.
that add to the depth of it. Some might argue this was maybe is a little bit just a tad bit too long. I don't see that, but I could maybe see where others, but like that just might be because your chronographer or your chronology or your time keeping device is off and bent because you've been ruined by modern movies maybe a little bit. I don't know. That's a very personal take. But
Yeah.
all things being equal, it's all personal preference. But
Right.
this is one that just like those, and I'll also put Tenebrae and Suspiria that we covered earlier at the very bottom when we push this out.
Yeah.
But as it were, I think that's pretty much all of it. That I just really appreciated the psychological
Yeah.
aspects
I
to this.
I think also like the main actor David Hemmings was very very good in it. I think
That's true.
he
Yeah.
played it very well. And I will note Daria in her interviews talked about how he was actually going through a divorce at the time. So as Dario and Daria were first starting out their relationship, and is at the very beginning of the blossom of love, David Hemmings was at the end of his the breakup, and he was taking it very badly, and he was drinking a little bit too much on the set. And she said that he was actually kind of had a nervous nature to him, and he's actually would rub his hand, and he'd actually rubbed a hole into
Eesh.
his hand there. And so even though he's going through all those emotional things, his performance in it is quite good, and
I would agree with that.
very very good, and he did a wonderful job. So I think, and also Dario said that when he had seen him in the movie Blow Up, and after them talking about Blow Up, I almost kind of want to go back and watch that as well. Um, but he said that he wanted him for the role because of Blow Up, and he met with with David in a cafe to kind of talk about the role, and David Hemmings showed up, and he was a bit overweight. Dario said he was chubby.
Mhm.
So there was sort of like this unease during the interview, and David was like, "What's wrong?" and Dario said, and David goes, "It's because I put on a little weight." And Dario goes, "A little chubby," and
Yeah.
David goes, "Well, we don't start shooting in a month. Give me a month. I'll get down my weight." And actually, he lost the weight. He got a little bit even thinner than he was in Blow Up. And so yeah, so he does. He did what he could for the role. He really put himself into the role. So
A professional.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah. So shout out to David Hemmings. I haven't seen him in anything else, but like I said, he did a wonderful job in this
I agree with
movie.
that. Yeah, no, and the only other thing I wanted to add was, and we kind of covered it in bits and pieces, but I don't think I really hit it home, which was, and I think you touched on it too, which is basically his character, Mark, his worldview is slowly being challenged
Hmm.
and kind of like sucker punched here and there. And then he finally gets to the end of this movie and it finally breaks, it finally it shatters his like, oh, maybe I should think a different way. Because
Yeah,
he's having all these kind of he's kind of playing this back. They don't like really do flashbacks per se, but you can kind of see like like when somebody's looking and contemplating at what they are if they're really good, which just goes back to what we were talking about before. His performance is good, very good.
yeah. Yeah, the ending of the movie is very somber, and as the credits roll, spoiler alert here, there's just this pool of blood, and you see the reflection of
Right.
Mark looking into the pool of blood, and you don't really know what's in his head, like you were saying, and that's the wonderful nature of this movie, and this ending that it gives you is like, what was the effect of this whole thing on Mark? What is he taking away from this? And like you said, this is a very pivotal moment in his world. One other thing that I'll talk about is Carlos. Since we're kind of getting into spoilers, there's the there's the scene where it's revealed that he's at least one of the killers, and it's up to you to decide which ones he was responsible for.
Right.
But his death in the movie is, oh my God, this
Mm.
so something out of this world. And it's visceral, and you're surprised at how real it looks. I
It's
mean,
it's almost like you remember the movie Final Destination and Final Destination 2 and stuff, and like kind of how it
yeah,
kind of sets up, but you can see it a mile away and you can kind of see coming. You
uh-huh.
don't necessarily see that, but it's quite remarkable. I'll leave it
Yeah,
there.
it's one of those death scenes that really really comes out of, kind of like you said, out of nowhere, but it's sort of like a perfect ending for him, and I'll take that death over any of those big blockbuster Marvel ending movies that are just over the top. And
Right.
this movie knows how to
If they even
punctuate things.
die, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And actually, so Carlo, he gets dragged around, and his head gets bashed into the sidewalk there, and that was they. Dario said, "Oh, it was foam. He's okay." And the actor is like, "Yeah, it was hard rubber. It was wasn't very soft." And then he gets his head eventually gets run over by a car wheel.
Right.
And the way they did that, they filmed it, is they had the car right there next to his head, and reversed it, so, and then played it, had them go in reverse, the car in the reverse, and then played it in reverse in the actual movie to get the effect. But shout out to the actor also. He was under a bit of a strain as well. His name is Gabriel Lavia.
Mm.
I probably butchered his name, but he was actually filming a TV show at the time, sort of a medieval TV show where he was riding horses and was in armor, and was running around, very strenuous TV show at the time. So he was filming that during the day, and then at night they would, cab ride him over to the set of DeepRed. So he was very much kind of in a kind of a fugue state, kind of no sleep. And him him being kind of a alcoholic, kind of blurry-eyed alcoholic, kind of works with this movie.
No, it really does. It really does. It goes to the method acting, I guess, or natural side effect of what he was doing. You definitely have a sense of like, you get your shit together, guy.
Right. So yeah, and he was actually the one, because the way that Gabriel says it, Dario wanted the car to actually come up to his head and just stop in the nick of time and film it that way. And Gabriel was like, I'm not real keen on that. I'm not sure if that the guy, mistakes happen. What's to say if he doesn't quite stop right there? So he says that he comes up with the idea of reversing the car and getting the shot that way. And he goes, in fact, he said that he was the guy that actually went in the car and made sure it was in reverse before laying down in the street to make sure that the guy was in reverse. And then there was an interview with him on the Blu-ray, and he was talking about how much later, when he was filming with Dario again on the movie Sleepless, he said that he ran this idea by Dario and Dario's brother, saying, hey, what if Carlo didn't die? What if he actually survived, and he's sort of like this crippled guy that could just barely use his hands and plays the piano, and he is trying to kind of inspire a movie from that. And Dario's brother was was like, hey, that's kind of an interesting idea. And Dario's like, no. Carlo died. Carlo should stay dead. Romero about doing a remake of DeepRed, but in 3D. And
that was back when that was like a gimmick thing for a few years.
Yeah. And George was kind of interested because they said that Dario was involved in it. So George was interested in it until he contacted Dario and found out he had no clue about it and didn't know anything about it. So he kind of called it off, and it never did get made. And so I think that was probably for the best.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, we don't need. We're good with this version, with this universes, this multiverses version of it or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Was there anything else? I think we're coming up toward the end. I think that I had already mentioned the psychological elements I dig, and I like that quite a bit. Not quite as in the psyche sphere as I get it, but it's still right there. And that this whole movie is about that anyway, like perspective, like from the killers, from the protagonist, from the everyone. They do a very good job. Dario does a very good job of showing that and bringing you in, inviting you into this weird, creepy kind of very brutal mystery that you're drawn into, and you can't help but look away. All these scenes, there's not one scene where you can look away or you want to look away, even if it's when it's brutal. I was just gonna say, but that just goes to show his vision on the big screen.
One thing the last thing I'll talk about is Dario and one of his producers. They have a shop in Italy called Profondo Russo, which has kind of like a museum to some of Dario's work, and it's sort of like a collection of different odds and ends, sort of like Forbidden Planet and England. But yeah, it's sort of like a shop / museum / whatever, which is kind of like this tiny little shop in Italy. And if we get 1 million subscribers, kind of far off for us, but if we get 1 million subscribers, I think me and Mike will go to Italy and visit that shop.
We will absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
On
Yep.
when we get uh, as a celebration of our millionth subscriber, we'll watch we'll throughout that time we'll be watching all of Dario's films.
Yep.
We'll watch
Start
his
to
last
finish.
movie. Yeah, yeah. Our last viewing of the last Dario movie that we will watch, and then we'll go to Italy and as a celebration.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. I'm right there with it. So let's get there, folks. Let's get there.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I was going to pull it back here to our plugging to get to the show. This is, we just want to say again, thank you so much to the folks who have stuck with us this long. We really do appreciate it. And although maybe one day we'll get to 1 million, that would be great. Who knows? But one thing's for sure. If we don't show up, how will you show up? So we do appreciate that so much, and it just makes it so much fun for us. And next week, we're going to do a little teasing here. We have a very special guest, and we are going to be dipping our toe into some up-and-coming works out there that is a little bit different way of thinking and seeing very popular characters in a different light. That's for sure. And I'm looking forward to that. With that being said, I think that's the. Let me pull up my quotes here so we can get us ready here. But in any case, do you have anything else to add, Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I'll say this. This is kind of ending our second year and starting our third year. I just thinking of New Year's resolutions and looking forward onwards. I'm predicting this will be our best year. 2024. I think it's going to be full of promise for both you and I. Just
agree.
Both with the channel and personally. I think it's going to be a great year. And there's something to be said for positive thinking and if you have a positive mind, things will happen. And on that note, I was going to give a shout out to Mike because both of us kind of had in the back of our mind this thought of, hey, what if we did a podcast? What if we did something on YouTube? And Mike was the guy that made it happen. He reached out to me and started this whole big thing rolling for us. And I just want to say thank you, Mike, for
no problem.
making this a reality.
Well, you make it worth it, my friend. You make it worth it. You are the brains a lot behind that drives a lot of our pick our choices here. Or unless we have like a series or a theme or something I really want to get to. And you've also opened me up to horror. And we've also kind of both of us have kind of delved a little bit deeper in other genre that we're both not as familiar with, like anime and manga, as well, as it were, amongst other million other little kind of kitschy little things that we've covered, for sure.
But yeah, and
thank you, sir. Appreciate
it. Just show that we're starting to think alike. We both have our red lights going, and we didn't pre-plan that either.
No,
it looks really good. I think we look in sync.
Yeah, 2+ years later, I finally I mess with my desk setup a lot, but I finally got some things, and that my house has come together quite nicely. And actually, you'll see some other cool things here. Well, you won't really see it, but there'll be some nice things that are coming that will be nice to have. These big windows that have broken down blinds and stuff being replaced fairly soon. That'll be nice to have a little bit more privacy, and never mind privacy, just to be able to block the sun when I start my work day, as it were. But yeah, we want to thank everybody out there who has showed up. And if you want to see content, if you have your favorite Giallo, let us know, or even your favorite mystery or your favorite noir. I can definitely see us dipping into that, because again, we're all things nerddom. But whether it be the first or the last, we try to represent the nerddom and help introduce other folks to these wonderful treasures that we find week after week. Some not so much, but there are others like this, like where you just thank God for old back catalogs of these films that are just waiting to be rediscovered. And we're doing. Hopefully, we do some justice that I think we do. Definitely with your takes for sure. But aside from that, I think I got my quote lined up here, and I think we're ready to get played out, as it were.
And as Mike said, we looks like we've picked up a few new viewers. If you're still watching us and you like us, give us like, and go ahead and subscribe so that you can get that notification of our next video so you don't miss out. Like Mike says, you want to be in that front row.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
see our content.
And with that, I've been Mike.
And I'm Thomas.
Well, if you're going to be a detective, you got to get used to violence. Out.